Um, I got a question with mentorship.
Mhm.
Now, we've all had mentors over the years, whether it's been a formalized process or not. But speak to how important you think a mentor is, and then how would our group here go about finding one? Are there certain ingredients? Are there certain characteristics they should be looking for?
Yeah.
Maybe speak to a little bit on mentorship.
Yeah, and you guys obviously didn't pay me to say this, but obviously, the people in Virginia Youth Soccer have great mentors, and you and Paul both, Gordy, because I've been around you guys and I've seen you as educators and coaches on the field, and um, so they're fortunate to be in your organization. And I've always looked at mentorship as something that it's like culture. It's like, I mean, all these other kind of buzzwords that we all get used to hearing in this day and age. And I look back and I think, oh, did I have mentors? I never really thought about it. I guess I did.
Excellent.
Uh, and oh, I don't have a mentor. I need to go get one. I've always looked at mentorship as something that kind of happens organically, if you will. But in 100% agreement that you need to have them in your life, whether it's in coaching or any other part of your life. You have to have people who um, that you can look to in a way that's a little bit different than just getting affirmation from them, that are willing to have hard conversations with you and be really forthright and honest with you in your path. So if it's a coaching mentor and someone who, if you're trying to understand how to be better at your craft, whether it's as a director or a coach, um, it it has to be someone who, one, is a good listener, but two, can give you just honest, genuine truth about what they feel your strengths are and where you think you should maybe make changes or what you need to do differently, and that you trust has your best interest in mind. It's like that great relationship you have with the best coach you ever had, is that even if they were hard on you and even if they said things that you didn't necessarily want to hear, you knew it came from a place of caring.
Yeah.
Finding those people isn't easy, because a lot of times we have friends and people in our circle that we know are going to tell us, great job, oh, I can't believe you did that, that's amazing, congratulations, and how do you do it, and blah blah blah. But then, I keep referencing Amy because she's around here somewhere. Then you have Amy who's going to hit me right between the eyes with yep, avoids conflict. How about you have that meeting with her today, and you need to go talk to her, or dragging me into, I would gripe about it behind the scenes but wouldn't have the conversation. So hopefully the two of us, over the 25 years, 26 years that we worked together, we had that give and take relationship and we mentored each other in some ways. But I've always looked at it as an important part of getting better. And I always, as I got to be a more experienced coach and was in positions of authority, so to speak, I always looked at it as my duty, to be honest, to mentor other people. And I would say also, as a woman in coaching, I think it comes with a little bit of an extra weight to it, and not burden, but it does come with a duty. And part of that is that there aren't that many of us that coach. It's still, we're a minority when it comes to the numbers, whether it be in youth soccer, international soccer, all of it. There just aren't very many women coaching women and hardly any coaching men. And in the profession overall is a small percentage of the population. So to get to the point where I have a platform to speak and a platform of experience to come from, I've always looked at it as my duty to see which women are, maybe struggling or need help, or a hand to help pull them up, and be there to give them advice if they want it, sometimes solicited, sometimes unsolicited. If I see someone's got a lot of potential in the coaching schools, for sure, when it comes to coaching education, taking them, I wouldn't say under my wing, but just paying attention to sort of where they are and where they might be struggling and need help, to kind of push them in a direction that's a positive one, if they look like they're kind of struggling to find their footing in the profession, because it's not easy.
Yeah, we did an all female D license here in Virginia,
Uh-huh.
led by two of our female staff members. And I said to Paul, I want to just drop in on it. So I dropped in the second meeting, and I was quite aware of my intrusion and how the dynamics changed. But I was stunned at the support that the other female candidates gave the person, whoever it was, up presenting. And I said to Paul later, I said, guys would have ripped each other apart. But I was just shocked at, oh, that was great, and you did your best job, and the two lead instructors were outstanding in nurturing it and bringing it along. So it really opened my eyes here as well.
And I'll tell you, Gordon, and I alluded to this before, I come from a house of boys and I have a son. So, and Amy's same, she's got two sons. And so I'm around males a lot. And in coaching, I grew up being coached by men predominantly. And so for me, it was, back in the day, it was more just, I don't know, it was just second nature to me to be around men. But then I wasn't very aware that there weren't very many women coaching, nor did I have very many women to look to. And so you bring up a great point, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because we talk about this all the time, and there's definitely two schools of thought on all female courses and all female this or all female that, and separating ourselves. But I will tell you that, and some of the other women, Jill Ellis is one. I was on a call with her this morning. We have a webinar coming up and we were prepping for it, she and Carla Thompson and I, on Thursday. And we got to talking about this very topic and about mentorship. And one of the things I've come to learn is some of the women I know that are closest to me, that are sort of from the era I'm from and have coached quite a bit and achieved quite a bit, our personalities are a little bit different, but to make the assumption that, hey, just buck up, you guys, you have to be resilient. It's not even that. It's that these women, they're not all like us to begin with. And so they need they do need these all women courses, is my point, because exactly what you said, the dynamic changes, and not every woman is comfortable speaking in front of a group of men. I always have been, but the majority of women are not. And the minute a man walks in the room, the dynamic changes. And when it's around sport or around soccer, or around, it just, they go quiet. They're not willing to put themselves out there to say something they might think is construed as not right. Or it might seem naive or not as educated or not as knowledgeable in the game or whatever it is. They're just not willing to fail or throw themselves out there. And it changes. So in CONCACAF, we've done all women's licenses. And part of our mentorship to them is teaching them that at some point in time, you got to be good enough and brave enough to be in any group of people. It doesn't matter, like coaching girls, coaching boys, in a coaching school with men. But that first step for them is really important, to at least get their bearings and not be chopped off at the knees so they never want to come back. And so I've kind of come to that eventually, because I was always in the camp, like, I did it, you got to buck up, like, it's just deal with it, But I also, looking back on it, probably put up with a lot more than I should have, and kind of, I would say, even went along with some things that were inappropriate that were being said that I now feel complicit to, that I wouldn't put up with today as a young coach. I put up with it because I knew if I said anything, see ya, or I'd be that woman that they didn't want to have around anymore. But I think that there's a lot of value, particularly since we don't have enough women in coaching, to mentor them in a way that helps them, get themselves in positions to be successful. And I think when college programs started growing, girls soccer started getting bigger, a lot of young female coaches were thrown into positions when they weren't prepared and they didn't have great mentors, and they were only going by what they'd seen before. And a lot of that wasn't good. Correct. So they failed, and we lost them. The attrition rate for female coaches was huge, and it's still a problem, to be honest. And I think it's one that a lot of us try to work really hard to try to fix.
Yeah, great points. Great points.
So Leslie, on that, I just want to dovetail in regards to developing future coaches in the game, like through youth soccer. What are some things that we as youth leaders can do to, whether it's identify future coaches, or I don't want to say put things in place, but we just have to be aware of some of these. Are there advice that you would have for us?
In developing youth coaches, was that the first part of the question, Paul?
Yeah, in developing female youth coaches. Yes.
Yeah, I think, every club, and I'm going to reference Amy again because she's left the college game now and is running the Rain Academy, which, she's however many months into her job, and then the DA goes away, and no one in ECNL in Washington, they get to vote teams in, and none of them want her because they're attached to the pro team and they want her players, and yada, yada, yada. And so I've been watching her manage this whole thing. And if you want to have a case study in how to be a professional, outstanding, honest leader with integrity, she's like, I've been amazed at what she's been doing in this period of time. Talk about on the phone 15 hours a day. It's been literally insane, but I think she's going to come out on the other end with a game model, an academy model, and a role model for these girls that's second to none. So it's interesting that you say that. I've always felt that, and I've done this with my college teams, and I implore men that coach girls in youth teams, is that you always have to look around, and it's what I was given when I was a youth player by my coach, who was a British man that played in the NASL back in the day, and lower division men's soccer. But he, like, from the beginning would just like empower us. He could see we love the game. He could see that if we had some sort of leadership potential, that he would put us in positions of empowering us to lead each other and coach on the field, if you will. And if you see those types of players and you are in a club, you have to empower the older players to interact with the younger players. And it's always good for girls, especially, to see older girls come down to their teams and coach them and play in with them and be role models. And girls need to understand that coaching is a pathway. And, I never knew that I was going to be a coach. That happened 100% by accident, but it was also something, looking back, that was fostered in me from a really, really young age. And with my college players, that's why I have them work my camps in the summer. It's great to have them around, but it's putting them in front of little girls and showing them that, one, coaching isn't as easy as we make it look sometimes, that there's a process to it, that more thought goes into it than you think does. And getting a group of people to pay attention to you and buy into what you're asking them to do it's an art, and it's a profession. It's one that is, if you want to be really good at it, you have to pay attention to and learn how to do. But even giving them that idea that coaching is a pathway, you don't just show up and coach, that there's things that go into it, is important. So I think I've said this about our pro league for years. More of the pro women should be, and they've started to go through the licensing programs. And there's a lot of pros now that Amy and I both know because we had them as under 20s or under 23s. And we're mentoring them now because they're starting to think, hey, coaching might be my pathway. Or even if they just want to coach their kids when they become parents, is a way to kind of give back to the game and mentor them along the way. So I think giving players at a young age, they're never too young to be able to role model for other players, whether they're boys or girls, to help show them that coaching is a pathway. And I think refereeing is another good way to get kids involved and to start to identify people who love the game and want to be involved in the game at some level. And again, just sort of that ability to see people in those positions is really important. But I think older players that have that propensity to want to be in the game that way, and I wouldn't even say natural leaders. I think putting any kid in that position and empowering them to show kind of their own personality to a younger kid in the club is really powerful for them.
How do you feel about young girls training with boys?
No, I think it's great. Yeah.
Up until a certain age?
No, whenever. Yeah, I don't have an issue with it. I think, obviously around puberty, and that's all over the board for boys and girls. I mean, that whole age range of when kids are awkward and bizarre and whatever, I think you have to have the right adults managing it sometimes, depending on what the environment is. But at the same time, I think, I don't think, playing in leagues and all that other stuff is a topic for another day, but I don't think training, both genders training together is bad at all. There's a lot of women's college teams that use male players, practice players, for the purposes of just upping the level of physicality and the speed and the pace that you have to play because the pressure is coming quicker, and solving that. Our national teams for years have gone and played U16 boys, U17 boys, I think is probably the cutoff for where it becomes too big of a physical mismatch. Again, you're talking to someone who had 3 brothers. I would not be the athlete I am if I don't think, if I didn't grow up. My mom was a pretty good athlete, but I don't think I would have ever been sort of as physically aggressive or as tough in sports as I became if I hadn't played with my brothers and tried to keep up with them. I mean, I don't see an issue with it. I think it can be a positive.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time, Leslie. We really appreciate it. We know how busy everybody is and how many Zoom calls everybody's on, but we really appreciate you taking the time out.
Yay. And in all sincerity, it's outstanding to see both of you. And my big hope is that we're all together someplace, in person again sooner than later.
Yeah, mine too.
Yep.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks.